What if I told you that the majority of your pain, the stress, the anxiety, the shame, the feeling of being stuck is probably caused by just a couple of things? And if you could just identify those causes, you'd know exactly where to focus your energy on to make the biggest impact on your life. Today I'm going to show you a simple framework that I use as well that can help you to identify, address, and help you overcome your most painful problems right now. Not all of your problems, but certainly the ones that are causing you the most pain right now. If you're new here, welcome to the Redemption Arc. I'm George. I'm a couple of years now into my own redemption arc, working through that process to live a more intentional and aligned life in real time. I'm not a self-help expert, and I'm certainly not someone who claims to think that they have it all figured out. I'm just documenting what I'm learning as I go, sharing with you the frameworks and observations that I pick up along the way that's helping me navigate through my own redemption arc in the hope that it could also help you along yours. Whether you're at rock bottom right now or you're already along the way, this channel is for people who want to live a more intentional, happier life, more aligned with their own values. If this is the type of content that you think might add value into your life, then I invite you to hit the subscribe button. All right, let's get into it. Do you ever get that anxious feeling that you're just not quite living in alignment with yourself? You're not at peace with yourself. You've got all of these problems that seem to constantly show up just because of making poor decisions that aren't a true reflection of who you are. You're not sure where to start getting on top of these pain points. You lack clarity on what these problems actually are, and more importantly, what's causing them. Here's the thing, it's really hard to overcome problems if you aren't entirely sure what they are, especially if you don't know what's causing them. This is exactly where I was. And when you're at rock bottom, it's really hard to try and understand where to start. All the problems that seem to exist, they just seem to paralyze you. You look at your life and you just see problems everywhere. Your health, your relationships, your finances, your habits, your mental health. It all feels like this tangled mess and you're just not quite sure which thread to pull first. But here's what I discovered, especially that early stage of your redemption arc, most of your problems, the most painful problems, are probably only caused by one or two things, which means that once you start identifying what these causes are, it means that you can actually kill multiple birds with one stone. It means that you can make progress quickly. It also means that you can free yourself up to start thinking about the more complex, meaningful questions that are more deserving of your attention. Here's something else that I learned. You can't fix everything all at once. In fact, trying to fix everything all at the same time was one of the key things that caused me to really struggle to make progress. What you need is clarity on what exactly is causing the majority of your most painful problems. Because once you understand what's creating the chaos, you can act with purpose. It's a lot easier to commit to change when you understand what you're acting against. I was recently reading Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, and in this book I came across a section on productivity, on minimizing unnecessary tasks. And in the book he talks about the 80-20 rule. This is prioritizing the 20% of tasks that yield the 80% of the results, and minimizing the other 80% that are just noise that's actually just getting in the way of your signal. And this took me back to the original 80-20 principle, which is the Pareto principle. The principle states that about 80% of your problems are caused by about 20% of the causes. Sounds familiar? It's like a natural phenomenon that just seems to show up everywhere. It's just one of nature's ratios, I guess. And then it hit me that actually all those years back, when I was at my lowest point, I had actually used unintentionally this principle to address my problems in my life. I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I realized that I actually identified the biggest causes that were causing the majority of my biggest problems in my life. There were repeated patterns that resulted in harmful, frustrating, and really unhelpful outcomes. And the funny thing was that they were all stemming from maybe a couple of factors. So here's what I did. And if you're trying to overcome your problems, trying to figure out what they are and the causes of them, then I suggest you do this too. I wrote down a list of my most painful problems, the ones that were keeping me up at night, the one that were causing me to have this anxious feeling, the one that made me feel so out of alignment. Then, next to each problem, I wrote down what the thing was that was primarily causing that problem. And this is where things got a little bit confronting. When I looked at that list, I came to the brutal realization that about 80% of my problems were caused by only two things. That was alcohol and financial insecurity. Looking back now, it's pretty obvious. Rarely do any of these two things develop into positive outcomes, but when you're in it, you're just not really sure what is really causing you the biggest headaches. So let me break down to you exactly why these two causes were creating so much damage and chaos in my life. Alcohol was putting me into a compromised state that was obviously causing me to make decisions that were completely out of character. I'd embarrass myself in some way, shape or form, and then I'd have to deal with the crushing anxiety feeling that you have for the next couple of days following. Never mind the amount of time wasted trying to recover from the night before. And let's not also forget the amount of money that you spend whilst buying alcohol, especially in Australia where alcohol is certainly not cheap. And also just the amount of time wasted that could be spent doing other things that generate a whole lot more value to me. There was the silly spending in the pursuit of instant gratification. And then obviously the most important thing is the toll that it takes on your health and your mental health. Financial insecurity, on the other hand, is just a completely different beast. It is this constant pressure. It's like a dark cloud just above you that is just, constant pressure and anxiety and stress because you are always about a week away from financial ruin. That means that, you're constantly in this pressure of being able to afford to pay rent, for bills, and to be able to eat. And whilst you're at university studying, not making that much money, it's already a stressful time. You don't want to add more stress to yourself. And a couple of times there I actually did go broke, and that is honestly my fault. Volatility and uncertainty were just two constant themes within my life for years. And here's the thing. Obviously, some circumstances you just can't quite change. But these ones were totally within my control. By prioritizing control over these two causes, I could instantly eliminate the majority of my most painful problems. Okay, so we've figured them out. We know what the causes are. How do we eliminate them? For me, alcohol consumption, that's a pretty easy one to try and tackle. Just don't consume alcohol. And that's exactly what I did. I stopped drinking and I haven't drank since. Now, I know that could come across pretty extreme, but look, I just realized I'm not someone that should be drinking alcohol. So I've realized that I'm just better off without, and I'm much happier for it. Look, your solution could be completely different to mine. If it is alcohol that's one of your main causes you're trying to get a hold of, it could be that you're just wanting to drink in moderation or try and limit yourself to drinking on the odd occasion. But the fact of the matter is that you're trying to address the main causes of the problems that you're facing. So trying to put a lid on that cause in whichever way possible to try and limit the harmful effects that come from it. That's all you're trying to do. Financial instability, on the other hand, is completely different. It's not something you can fix overnight, right? It's something that takes a little bit of time, requires discipline, requires a plan, requires sacrifice as well. And whilst I have made a lot of progress in this area, building up that financial stability, that financial security to help my mental health and just allow me to live my life stress-free in that regard, there's still a long way to go. There are two ways you can build financial security. That is earning more and spending less. Whilst I was at uni and still early in my career, obviously I wasn't earning a huge amount of money. So for me, I started focusing on minimizing my costs. And to be honest with you, that's where I recommend everyone starts. The first thing I did was actually look at where my money was going. So I was looking at my bank statements, just seeing where every single dollar was going, tracking my spending essentially for a good month. And once I laid it all out on the table, it became pretty obvious what my biggest unnecessary expenses were. Here were some of my biggest expenses that I cut out. Obviously, the first thing I cut out was drinking. That saved me a lot of money, not just in terms of the alcohol, but everything that comes with alcohol. So, your Ubers, your fast food afterwards, your the rounds that you buy for everyone when you start getting a little bit too generous. Again, I mentioned it, cutting out Ubers. I just focused on getting public transport. If I couldn't actually walk there, public transport sometimes gets you there even faster than Ubers. So yeah, why not? Number 3, I stopped buying lunch and dinners out. Now, this one made a huge difference. You don't really realize it at the time when you're buying one lunch at a time, but it really does add up. Meal prep really saves you a lot of money. It is a little bit boring, but that's just the cost. So there is a cost and a benefit to everything. You've just got to sacrifice what you can really live with. And to be honest with you, you're saving a lot of money by meal prepping. And it doesn't mean that you can't eat out all the time. There is the odd little treat that you've got to give to yourself. And to be honest with you, you start appreciating it a lot more when it's less abundant. Number 4, I just stopped buying things that I didn't need. Things like clothes, soft drink, fast food, sweets, you name it. There's so many things that you just really don't need to buy. You buy out of impulse or you buy out of boredom it's just as soon as you stop buying those little things, you start giving into your impulse. You start, realizing that you don't need these things. You actually become a lot happier with what you've got and you become more satiated. It's almost as if once you start getting used to not buying things, saying no to things, it becomes a lot easier. And finally, I reviewed and culled a bunch of my subscriptions. This one is kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I didn't think I had a lot of subscriptions because I just don't really need a lot of things. But the amount of things that I was subscribed to that were costing hundreds of dollars a year, that doesn't sound like a lot. But when you've got like 5, 6, 7 different subscriptions a year that you really don't use enough, you start realizing, oh my God, I'm spending like a good couple of $1,000s a year on things that I don't even use. Now that you've addressed your costs and tried to minimize those, you can start actually focusing on actual security, building that peace of mind. For me, I focused on building an emergency fund. This fund is about 6 months worth of expenses. It's not a whole lot of things. It's literally just for the bare minimum in case some sort of disaster happens. 6 months does sound like a lot, but this is as if you really cut everything back to the basics. What can you survive on? If worst case happens, you lose your job, something happens that means that you can't work for 6 months. And something like that really changes your mental state, your peace of mind when it comes to financial security. I then focused on eliminating all of the debts that I owe. I didn't really have that many, to be honest with you, but the biggest one is my student loan. I've still got that. That's just something that I'm gonna have to live with for a while, but not leaving it to just continuously grow. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in Australia, they don't force you to pay it back, and it's sort of like a percentage based on your wage. What I didn't know is that early in your career, you're barely paying back your student loan. So your loan is actually increasing in value, which is obviously not a good thing. So I started focusing on paying that down, sacrificing my own wage to try and bring that thing down. That doesn't mean I'm putting all of my money to that, because it's probably the cheapest loan you'll ever get in terms of the cost of borrowing, but in terms of the nominal value, it is not a small number. So focus on getting that one down. And as a result of addressing those causes, for the most part, those problems no longer exist. Now, that doesn't exactly mean that 80% of my problems have just disappeared entirely. What I came to realize is that those problems felt like 80% of my problems because they were the ones that were the most prevalent and most painful in my life at the time. Problems will always exist. As Jimmy Carr puts it, they are a feature of our lives. When some problems go, others will show up. Some of your own doing, and some are completely out of your control. You'll never be out of problems or pain points. You'll just have different ones. But here's the thing, problems that arise as a result of living within alignment of your true self are definitely a lot more palatable than those that are caused by living outside of alignment. And once you get to this moment, you've really achieved what people call the low-hanging fruit, the easy wins. You've just addressed the problems of the causes that are unnecessarily causing you the most pain. And the added benefit? Well, you're eliminating the behaviors that are causing you to feel out of alignment and all of the consequences that come with it. And the result? Well, obviously you're not going to be in complete bliss. There will always be problems, but you're certainly going to be at more peace living truer to yourself. I've found that I prefer to choose my own headaches, the ones that are necessary as a result of growth and challenges that I face as I progress and grow as a person, as opposed to having to constantly deal with the chaos that I've created for myself. All right, so let's go through that framework once again, step by step, so you know exactly how you can utilize this to overcome and address your biggest pain points. Step one, I want you to write down your biggest pain points. And I want you to be really honest with yourself here. What are the things keeping you up at night? What are the things making you anxious, ashamed even? The things that are causing you the most harm internally and externally. Step two, next to each of these problems, I want you to identify what the causes are. So what are the behaviors? What are the circumstances? What are the little patterns that you are noticing that are causing these problems to occur? Step number three, analyze. Look at the list of your problems and the causes and see if there are any patterns or common names that keep cropping up. These are probably only one or two causes that are actually creating the majority of your problems. Step number four, prioritize. Figure out which of the causes, if addressed, would eliminate the most pain. Something as simple as just writing down your problems on a piece of paper can be a really powerful tool. It not only helps you visualize what your problems are, but it allows you to prioritize where to address them first. It gives you clarity, but it also gives you direction. It becomes your mission statement, a mantra for you to live by that adds purpose to your redemption arc and the decisions that you make along the way. A business without a mission is an empty vessel, lost at sea with no direction or conviction, and you are no different. The 80-20 principle has proven to be extremely beneficial to me over and over again. It helps me to identify my most pressing problems that I'm facing, which honestly are not always the most prevalent, and it also allows me to prioritize which causes to address first. It certainly won't solve all of your problems, and of course you are the one that has to do the work at the end of the day, but it certainly will help when it comes to figuring out which ones to start with first, the ones that matter. The ones that, once addressed, will create the most positive changes in your life. Our attention is limited, so choose your headaches. Make them the ones that are necessary, the ones that are worth your time. And I'll see you in the next one.